Hey everybody, it's Charles from HumbleMechanic.com. Today, I'm taking your questions on LED bulbs, no-start Passats, switching brands, and more. This is episode 168 of the Humble Mechanic Podcast. All right, so the first thing you probably noticed is that we are not in the normal studio. We are actually at the AAPEX and SEMA show at the CRP booth. You guys know that the sponsor of the Q&A shows is CRP, so what better place to answer your questions than in their booth during the AAPEX show here in Las Vegas. So shout out to CRP, thanks for having me in the booth. Thanks for making it possible for me to do these Q&A shows for you guys. So with that, there's also maybe some background noise because this is, after all, a convention. Don't worry about all that. We're gonna jam with your questions, so let's get right into it. First one comes from Fred. I got a 2015 Audi A3 1.8 turbo with 28,000 miles on it. The car recently got to some starting issues. I would drive it for 30 minutes, and when I tried to restart the car, it wouldn't start. I always have to jump start it. After that, I stopped for 15 minutes, and the car barely starts with a bunch of faults on the dash. Audi Presense, TPMS, shifter not in park, hill hold, assist, etc. Plugged in VADCOM, and there were no codes. When I plugged my scan gauge in and attempt to turn on accessories, it only shows about 7.8 volts on the system. But when I was driving earlier in the day, it was charging up to 13.7 to 14 volts, and the battery indicator looks fine. Even took the car to the auto parts store to have the electrical system checked, and they said there was nothing wrong with the car. What's going on with my A3? Fred, there could be a couple of things going on with your A3. So first of all, battery voltage is vital. Vital. Even as low as 12.2 volts can make your car do some weird things. Modern cars rely so heavily on a proper supply of battery voltage. So very first thing you need to do is you need to take your car somewhere where they load test the battery. It may have okay voltage, but if you ever get to the point where you're at 7.8 volts, you got a big problem. So start with getting the battery properly tested. It's probably gonna need to be replaced. But what you can do at home is go through and check the connections. Make sure the battery cables are tight. Make sure you don't have any accessories that are staying on when you shut your car off. So some of the older Volkswagen Audis, when you left a 12-volt charger plugged in, it would actually stay on with the key off. Most of the modern ones either have the option or just turn it off completely. So you really want to make sure you don't have anything left on. But man, get the battery checked first, because you can't do a proper starting charging system test if your battery voltage is low. If your battery voltage is anywhere near 12 volts, you probably need to get that battery replaced. Of course, look for any corrosion. Once the battery's been proven to be good, whether properly tested or replaced, now we can move into the starting charging system testing. But if you had 13.7 to 14 volts while your car was running, it's probably going to be okay. My guess is that you either have a dead cell in the battery or the battery's just too weak to maintain itself when your car's off. So get the battery tested properly, man, and that's probably what you're gonna find is the whole entire problem. All right, next one comes from Paige. I'm stranded in Colorado and I have a question. I have a 1999 1.8 turbo Passat. I was coming down from Vail Pass and my car started jerking. I tried turning on the heat thinking it might be vapor lock. It seemed to help, but then it got worse. I pulled off, and as soon as I did that, I lost complete power. I was able to coast into a Walmart. 3 very nice guys helped me push it out of the way. There was a garage, but unfortunately they only did oil changes and tires. The car turns over and acts like it wants to start, but it seems like it's not getting any fuel. I was wondering if it could be a clogged fuel filter or maybe even the pump. What are your thoughts? Well, Paige, first of all, I'm sorry you're stranded. Hopefully that by the time you're seeing this has been taken care of. And I actually emailed Paige to make sure that, you know, I responded in email so they didn't have to wait until I did the show. But a couple of things on that generation Passat. You had mentioned that it sounds like it wants to start, but it seems like it's not getting fuel. That's probably what's going on. The fuel pumps in these cars aren't super common to fail, but they fail enough that if I had a car towed in with a no start, that would probably be my first test. You'll take the little cover off, and you can, if you have someone nearby, you can have them try and crank the car to start it. And usually you can hear the pump come on. So if you're not hearing the pump come on, that may be a result of a fuel pump failure. Of course, you're gonna wanna check power, you're gonna wanna check ground to make sure that the fuel pump has what it needs to even turn on. When it comes to a clogged fuel filter, maybe it's probably not going to cause your car to not start, but that's an easy thing to replace on the Passat. There is a cover that has to come down. If it's not a 4Motion, it's much easier than the 4Motions. The 4Motions are installed kind of backwards, and they have banjo fittings, whereas the 1.8 turbo is simply just a hose and clamp. Cut the clamps, take the filter out, and put the filter back in. It's pretty easy. I've also seen coolant temp sensors fail in a manner where they'll cause the car not to start. They'll either tell the ECM the engine's really, really hot when it's cold, or really, really cold when it's hot, and it screws with the fuel delivery of the car. So both of those are pretty common-ish things, and the fuel pump is more common than the ECT causing a no-start concern. So start there. Obviously make sure you have gas in the car. You know, a failure of the fuel level sender could also lead to a car not starting, because if you think you have half a tank and you're on E, why are you going to stop and put gas? So that could be another failure as well. Anyway, fuel pump, power, ground, very, very important. You can also pull the fuel line off underneath the hood as long as you have a container to capture that fuel and have someone crank it, or if it's a decent container where you can jam the line all the way in, you can crank it yourself and see how much fuel you get out, because you'll get a pretty good amount of fuel. Just always be safe, don't smoke, wear your safety equipment, glasses of course, gloves if you have them, and test the fuel delivery that way. Either way, it's just about as easy, the same amount of work, less tools to pull the cover up for the pump. I actually did a video on how to remove that pump that I'll link up for you so you can see how to get to it on your exact generation Passat. So sorry you're stuck. Again, I hope you got it worked out, but when you see what happened and when you finally get it fixed and running, let us know what was wrong. All right, next one comes from Parker. What are some reasons and remedies as to why my 09 Jetta would keep killing LED headlight bulbs? Maybe it's the pulse width modulation. I have an 09 Jetta, tried to switch out my stock H7s for LEDs. The difference is awesome. The LEDs will be great for a few months and then start developing random flickers. I've bought CAN bus LEDs and others that require a resistor to be added, but regardless of the brand, they all start to flicker. It's hard to go back to halogens, so any help would really be awesome. Yeah, it's not meant for it, right? Your voltage could be wrong, your current to the bulbs could be wrong. The pulse width modulation very well may be causing the problem. Something I might try is deactivating the DRLs and only run headlights. That may be an option for you. You can do that with a tool like VAGCOM or take it to your dealer. They may or may not do it. A local tuning shop would probably be a better place to take it. A lot of times dealers won't deactivate or disable safety systems. I know I won't do it at the dealership, but it's something that you can easily do, just a simple coding change in the vehicle electrics module or the body control module, depending on what generation 09 you have. That would be my first thing, and I would try it again and see what they did, see how long they lasted. If that doesn't work, man, there's opportunity for these bulbs to just continue to fail over and over and over again. Again, the car's not meant for it. That module's not meant for that. Even the CAN bus ones, even the ones with the resistors, as much as like in my brain, I feel like that should work just fine. It's probably not, because that's not really what the car is meant for, but I wish the bulbs were brighter in that generation car too. I've seen a lot of people add xenons, and they're pretty unreliable as well, and that's a bad headlight design to add a xenon headlight to, because it doesn't have a projector. So instead of shooting light out, you're actually broadcasting it everywhere. My wife's CRV, I put them in, and it was awful. It would light up the trees on the side of the road, but not really project the light out far enough for me to see. So unfortunately, there's not an awesome answer to this question, but if you want to kind of step through it, I would definitely deactivate the DRLs first and see if that changed the duration and the life of the bulbs. If that doesn't work, man, this may just be a problem that is going to be a product of using something that the car's really not meant for. But if you guys know of any LED headlights that work well on that generation, non-projector headlights, post it down and let us know, and maybe we can help them out and try and find something that'll work a little bit better. All right, got time for one more. This one comes from Matt. I've been a tech for almost 12 years and I'm thinking about switching to VW dealer. Can you offer any advice? Hey Charles, I've been a tech for almost 12 years and I need to find a closer dealer to home because of childcare. I have 7 ASEs, a good work history. I enjoy Diag, and even though I've never used VAGCOM, I'm confident I can quickly learn. You'll be fine. VAGCOM's great. I've been at Mini Cooper for 3 years. Thinking of applying a local VW dealership, can you offer any words of wisdom about switching to the VW car line? Tools I need, e-Torx, triple squares, Torx, plus, etc. Thanks, Matt. So Matt, you're gonna find that there's a ton of overlap. Your biggest struggle is not gonna be in the tools, right? That's easy. Open the hood, you can look at some of the fasteners, look at your box and see what you're missing. A lot of triple squares, a lot of Torx bits, some inverted Torx, but they're not really common. And VW has a ton of special tools, which BMW and Mini do as well, so you shouldn't really have a problem there. The biggest struggle you're gonna find is you're gonna find problems with the diagnostic equipment. BMW does an incredible job of providing great support for their technicians with their scan tool. I have to assume that Mini gets the same support, even though I don't have as much experience with Mini as I do with BMW. So BMW does an incredible job with their ISTA scan tool. Way more support than VW Audi gets for diagnostics and diagnostic flowcharts and things like that. So that's gonna be your biggest struggle. Our scan tools are finicky and weird and they don't always work right, and information is kind of scattered in different places. So it's all in there and you can access it. It's just not super intuitive. It's not like picking up an iPhone and poking at it and being able to figure it out really quick. There's a pretty significant learning curve to the scan tool. Now, it's a good scan tool. It's got a lot of great information, a lot of test plans, but it's also really finicky. It works terrible on the non-CAN bus car, so like 2005-ish down. It's awful. Older Touaregs, older Phaetons, it's terrible. That's when you're gonna really wanna use your VAGCOM or use another OE style factory scan tool. I like VAGCOM, that's kind of my go-to when it's not a warranty job, just because it works so well and it's built for that. But man, other than that, you've been wrenching for 12 years, you've been wrenching on German cars for 3 years, you know how they are. They're all very similar. It's all, or mostly, Bosch fuel management, and all the parts are kind of similar. So you'll be fine, don't sweat it. If you've made it that long and you did well in Mini for 3 years, you'll be just fine. Again, the biggest struggle you're gonna have really comes down to using the scan tool and muddling, for lack of a better word, muddling your way through it. But if you figured out how to use the BMW one, you figured out the Mini, you'll be fine. You'll be able to figure it out. It's just plain and simple different. All right, guys, I'm gonna wrap it up there. If you have any questions or comments, you know what to do. Hey, if you like this video, throw it a thumbs up on YouTube. I always appreciate that. You can also subscribe on YouTube or on the blog at humblemechanic.com. Follow me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and of course on Snapchat. Shout out again to CRP for having me out at the AAPEX booth. Hopefully this was kind of fun, kind of cool. There'll be more videos coming about this week and the show and the road to SEMA that I did with Eric and Chris and the two Matts and a bunch of other really awesome people. So look for that coming soon. I'm pumped. This is day one, like hour one of the show, so should be a really good time. And of course, no drink of the day. It really is like not even 9 o'clock yet, and I had a long day and a long week ahead.